All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for attending our webinar today on how to supercharge your outsource finance. We did this presentation at Accountex, and obviously we were so good at it, we thought we'd bring it to the masses and do a webinar as well. So just to introduce myself, I'm Frances Kay. I'm one of the directors at Farnell Clarke and of App Advisory Plus. I spend most of my days doing business development and also looking at business transformation for new clients. So this is, I live and breathe this every day. So it's a good afternoon for me just to be chatting about everything I love. So the outsource team in Farnell Clarke started probably around 2018 as we saw a need from clients changing. So it moved very much from just compliance to actually, can you take a bit more bookkeeping? Or am I doing this properly? Oh, can you cover because someone's sick? So we started to offer this service, and obviously at the heart of everything we do is tech. So we also started to build up our own app stack that supported those clients and for those needs that were coming through. So obviously COVID also then came and hit us and made things just kind of speed up quite a lot more. So obviously the need for remote access to finance, but also operational needs, needing to hook in and see the finance side of things. Different skills were needed. So you might have a finance team who you've got one person, maybe two, and you've got a qualified accountant who should be doing management accounts, and they're actually doing data entry, admin type roles. So there's this sort of skill requirement that, again, from us as a firm, we're able to supply the right person for the right role. Naturally, as well, we see employment risk. So sadly, rather annoyingly, people take holiday, people got sick. What happens is usually everything comes to a complete standstill. And obviously the knock-on effect is delays and bottlenecks. So the outsource finance team that we provided obviously covers all year round support. Again, talking about operational finance is that you might be talking about numbers, and it's actually like, what does this mean? And actually, if you go back to the source, which is usually operational, it's like, well, can we not make them talk? Why are we duplicating work? So also outside of the apps that we're talking today is looking at systems that help operational team that then naturally benefit the finance team. So completely selfish, but if you go back to the beginning, you can usually find a really nice clear route from operations to finance. Other areas we've seen is obviously startups. People have got these genius ideas that sometimes I'm like, where has that come from? And they know nothing about finance. It's just not their skill set. So again, startups need support, and they usually grow really, really fast, which means they have to have the best practice in place from day one so they can grow with it. And then finally, it is that very much, I've never done this before, what should I be doing? So all these different client needs were coming at us, and we decided, right, let's have a dedicated team that completely devote their time to these businesses that need that daily support. So off the back of it, we're able to offer clients, we basically take control of the inbox. So we are first line support. We will deal with 90% of queries and refer internally where we have to, but that means that we have access to all the source information. So when we come on to talking about Dext, for instance, we'll just be able to send any invoices straight out from inbox. We then do the bookkeeping daily, including bank reconciliations on Xero. We do supplier runs, fortnightly, monthly, whatever it is. We then do credit control. So as you can see, all these different services have started to build up just from that initial offering of bookkeeping. And interestingly enough, we've even gone into like sales ordering as well, and a bit more administrative support. So these are all things that we're now offering. And it also then sort of enabled us to talk to business owners that would randomly say things like, my management accounts are never delivered on time and I don't know why. And again, it's because they perhaps don't know what goes into it. Whereas if you outsource it, then there's a service level agreement and things have to be delivered. Probably people want to go paperless. We've got hybrid working, remote working. So all these different things, again, are contributing to, let's look at what our finance team are doing and hopefully outsource to Farnell Clarke, for instance. But equally, I am talking to finance teams that realize that they are acting how they always have. They've always used the same old systems. They've got these sort of very heavy approval routes and paper-led processes. And actually, a lot of them are now taking a step back going, can we be better than this? So again, it's not just outsourced, but also if there's any finance teams listening today or any in-house accountants, this is also really beneficial to see how all these systems can come together and help you release some of that sort of painful jobs that you have to do. So I'm going to be introducing each of my lovely panelists today and just touch upon what each of the product does. I will be chipping in with my favorite features that we love at Farnell Clarke, and then ultimately show you how they all interact together. And I think that's the key thing to just emphasize, is that just having apps that talk to one another, it makes efficiencies and automation, and it's just beautiful. So we're starting with Ben Smith from Dext. And the reason we're going there straight away is because it's usually our first product that we have to use on our sort of processing. We've been using Dext since 2012, so that's quite a long time, and we know it inside out. And as I say, it's kind of one of those apps that just has to happen. It just is hand in hand. If you're using Xero, you must have Dext. So Ben, hello, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
No, it's lovely. And also you're wearing your branded t-shirt. I mean,
Yeah, you've
I'm
got to have
so slack.
got to wear the branded t-shirt when you get the chance.
Cool. So first question, just for those people that don't know, can you give me an overview of Dext Prepare and how it works, please?
Sure. So Dext has been around sort of since 2010, initially as Receipt Bank. So you were one of the earlier adopters, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. And thanks for being with us as long as you have. So Dext Prepare is one of a number of products developed by Dext, really to make life easier in the accounting and bookkeeping space, whether that's as an in-house finance function, as an outsourced finance function, or from the accountant and bookkeeper perspective. So Dext Prepare specifically is really about making it easy to collect, collate, extract, categorize, and code all of those documents that comprise the financial activities of a given business. And then once you've been able to do that, it's really about getting those documents where they need to be quickly, accurately, and ultimately efficiently.
Lovely, lovely, nice. So obviously, as I mentioned before, Dext for us is we manage the inbox. We teach our clients what to do with their paperwork in terms of sending it to us or to Dext. But obviously, I'm not going to be beat around the bush here, but people are pretty rubbish at getting paperwork over, right? I mean, no matter how many times you ask for an invoice, it's just a bit painful. So how can Dext make it easier for us to be less reliant on clients to think about it, for them to get that paperwork over?
Sure. So there's a bunch of things here. I think obviously the first thing is that, as an accountant or bookkeeper, whether you're outsourced or whether you're kind of working on a year-end basis, you're always going to be somewhat reliant on the client because they're the ones creating that business data. So the really interesting thing about Dext is how flexible and configurable it is to suit the specific requirements of a given client. So in Farnell Clarke's role as the sort of outsourced finance function, you can work with the client to configure it in such a way that it's used by the client in a way that best suits them and you as the accountant or bookkeeper. So a couple of examples of that really. So the main thing for me is just the flexibility of document submission methods. So, we'll all be really familiar with the idea that there are some clients who are particularly sort of well suited to high-tech adoption and those who are less so. You know,
Nicely put.
it's a fact of life, right? You know, some people have better internet access than others. Some people like a smartphone. Some people don't, for lots of reasons. And so when you've got a client using Dext, there's a bunch of different ways that they can use it to get documents to you. So the easiest way is to just set up an email address, and all of the expense and or sales documents can just get sent straight to that email address. And then as the outsourced finance function over at Farnell Clarke, it's up to you to kind of pick up those documents and do what you need to do with them, get them to the right place. So it just means that there's one really easy way for that to happen. However, you know, that doesn't necessarily always work when you've got a client who's out on the road a lot. You know, maybe they're a plumber and they're going to a meeting with a client, they're buying a coffee and some petrol from the petrol station, and they're stopping at Screwfix to pick up a bunch of, I don't know, pipes and plugs or something. These are all documents that they're not necessarily going to have to hand, so they are going to have to hand, but they're not necessarily going to want to keep them. So the Dext app means that they can literally just take a picture on their phone, and whether they actually, you know, even if they don't have internet connection right there and then, they can still use that phone as soon as they come back online to submit the documents straight into the Dext platform from there. So it makes it really easy for them, regardless of how they do it, to kind of provide those documents to you. And even, you know, beyond that, we even have automation capabilities whereby I think it's something like 1,500, 2,000 suppliers now, where Dext will actually go and look for those recurring regular supplier documents, you know, those invoices that you get from the broadband provider, from the insurance provider if you're paying monthly, utilities. Dext will go and get those, pull them from the supplier portal, and bring them straight into the Dext platform as well. So
The
it
thing I
just makes
love,
it really easy.
sorry, Ben, I was just going to say, the thing I really love about that is that we don't have to have the user logins either for that. You know,
Yeah.
obviously some people, you shouldn't be sharing your data. So one of the great things is if we recognize, and also Dex recommends to us, doesn't it? It says, oh, by the way, you use these suppliers.
Mhm.
Did you know that they have an online connection with us? And what's really great is we say, yeah, let's try hook it up. And when we send an invite to the client to do the username and password. So I thought that was a really, really good feature to have for us, so that we're not having usernames and passwords.
Yes, I can absolutely understand why that would be attractive.
I think I have done it once when I've gone to Amazon and I've logged in as the wrong user, and I'm like, oh no, don't buy. That could be quite awkward. So also the app we particularly used to love in the earlier days, we'd have photos. Like photography skills of some clients again was a little lacking in the early days. Like we'd have screwed up pieces of papers with footprints on. So the need for us not to have to see any of that paper anymore is really good. Also butcher boxes. We used to get boxes of invoices from a butcher.
Yep.
I won't go into more detail about how gross that paper was. So yeah, and again, so all those ways, and you're right, it's very much dependent on how the client is as to which one we'd recommend the most. But also it's allowing the rest of the client's team to have access to the app.
Yeah,
So people that've got
absolutely.
credit cards, which I mean, I don't think if anyone comes up with a solution for credit cards, they are onto something. No matter how easy we can, just getting receipts. But Dex makes it so much easier, and that we'll give all the users that have got a credit card access, and they can also do the forwarding. So again, it's not
Yeah,
through one person.
it becomes really important that you, as the outsourced finance provider, can work with the client to determine exactly who can do what.
Yes,
So it's
exactly.
not just a case of everybody can send in documents from wherever. You can absolutely configure that to the precise sort of setup that's going to work for everybody. I think that's really important.
It is. And the other cool feature that we live by is the way that Dex picks up the last 4 digits of a credit card or debit card.
Yes.
And again, we can set up really, really cool rules about, if your PIN or your last 4 digits end in 1, 2, 3, 4, immediately assign it to credit card X.
Yes.
It's just beautiful.
Absolutely. I think there's a whole bunch of reasons why clients really value Dext, but there's equally a whole bunch of reasons why it's a good solution for the accountants and bookkeepers providing those services on that platform. And I think that's something that I really like about Dext, is that it kind of it provides value both to the client, but also to the accountants, the bookkeepers, the people who, you know, these clients are entrusting their business lives with.
Absolutely. So obviously we've been using it for 10 years, but how do you think Dex helps? How does it help the finance team and the outsource finance function?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something I'm particularly sort of passionate about. You know, the cool thing from, like I said, Dext is pretty flexible in terms of how the clients use it. But by the time all this kind of messy paper-based data gets to you as the practice, as you as the people in the practice, it's much more structured, it's much more digital, and that means you can do some really cool things with it. So I tend to think about it as kind of being sort of two areas, really. So at an operational level, as the person who's now tasked with dealing with this data, I think the main thing is you can have a huge amount of confidence that the data that you're getting is accurate, because the data extraction engine is so powerful and so accurate that you don't really have to worry about double checking everything. And so that alone just saves a huge amount of time. I think the second piece is that there's a whole suite of automation that you can put in place as the provider of these outsourced services to make that service much more efficient, much more scalable as well. So, you know, an example might be, we know that every time we get an invoice from this particular supplier, it needs to map against this particular code in the chart of accounts. And again, you know, we'll pull in the chart of accounts from the accounting software if that's the appropriate thing to do, and you can map directly to any custom codes that you brought in. So it means that instead of having to kind of literally go through, check the invoice, where has that come from, where, you know, where is that supposed to be coded, Dext can do a lot of that work for you. So that, again, is a pretty huge time saver. And then if you're not entirely sure and you need to go and double check with the client, you can do that through the app. Through the product as well. And so those are really sort of useful pieces. And then the third piece is you can automatically publish all of those documents straight through to a ledger like Xero, almost sort of touch free. So you take one of those examples of the like a utility provider, we're going to set up Fetch so that it's going to go and get the BT bill at the end of every month. It's going to recognize that it goes to this particular code, and then it's going to automatically push it straight into Xero to the right ledger instantly without you ever having to actually touch it. But then it's also going to keep a copy of that document so that you've got it for reference when you need it. So really what it's doing operationally is smoothing out all those manual processes that you would have done previously. And then beyond that, what's really important is the fact that you can do it for clients of all shapes, sizes, and dispositions in a single place. And then as a practice, if you're a manager, if you're looking after a bunch of different clients, you can start to use Prepare in particular to monitor who's submitting more or less documents than previously, who's up to date, who's got missing paperwork, whose bank feed isn't necessarily connected in the way that it should be. And then, increasing, we mentioned it earlier that we've just released a new Practice Insights capability, which is, again, the strategic and operational insights there that's actually surfacing to you as the person providing these services, as the accountant or the bookkeeper, exactly which clients and which opportunities there are to use those automation rules, so that it's actually working harder to make you more efficient.
Absolutely. Right, I'm sorry, I could talk to you obviously all day, because this is just one of those things that I don't know where it would be without you guys. So thank you very much, Ben. Right, I'm now going to move on to Kat from Xero. We've been using Xero since 2015, I think, and 99% of our clients are on it, and we just, absolutely love it. Again, I don't want to assume everyone knows what Xero does, but Kat, can you please give us an overview and talk about Xero for us?
Yes, I certainly can. So hi everyone. I always worry a bit on these things that I'm going to go a little bit too far back. So I'm going to talk about when Frankie first became a customer of ours. it's not long after I joined Xero, and so over 8 years, I think it's fair to say that Xero has had some substantial growth, some substantial changes, hopefully. But Xero is, for those that don't know, an online bookkeeping product. Hopefully we do all know that. But Xero is now used in over 180 countries, over 3 million subscribers. And I guess we live and breathe collaboration and making life easier, not just for accountants, but for small businesses as well. The side of the business that I sit on is actually the accounting and bookkeeping side of the business. That's where my passion is. That's where my whole team focuses. We focus on workflows and digital transformation and how we actually get Xero to work as best it can for practices of all different shapes and sizes. We obviously have quite a large ecosystem that we work with, but I guess the key thing for us is we often get asked why people choose Xero and what makes Xero any different. And I think time and time again, when we speak to our users and when we speak to our customers, the honest fact of it is, I think it's the usability. And I hope that doesn't sound like a cop-out, but it's just incredibly user-friendly, and that all comes from where Xero was built from. So our original founder, Rod Drury, very much was, for anyone that met him, a serial entrepreneur who had 1,000,001 ideas and moved at the speed of lightning, and was a fantastic man, still is a fantastic man. And he was brilliant for innovation and ideas. And one of the things he had in his mind when he had these businesses that were running was that he just wanted one place to go to see if he was doing good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah. And that was kind of like where Xero was born from. And so I think our growth comes from that innovation, but also from this real desire to make life better for small businesses, for advisors, and for just the communities around the world as well that use Xero and are impacted by us.
I don't think usability is a cop out at all, actually, because as I say, most of my day is spent doing sort of, moving people from desktop products. I won't name any, but desktop to Xero. I've recently given training to a lady that she fully admitted hates technology, hates change, has been using a product desktop for 30 odd years, whatever it is, and by the end of the training session with her, she was converted. And, to change somebody from 30 years of one product, I think remarkable testament to her, but also to Xero and how easy it is for somebody to pick up. And obviously functionality, like, doing your bank recs, it's just so quick and easy. The VAT returns just there for you to see. I think it's not a cop out at all. I even got asked this morning, why would we move from this desktop product that a finance team is on to Xero? And I just started typing, and I'd written like 15 bullet points before I thought, wow, I could just keep going here. There's just so many things. And again, I don't want to assume that people already know this, but like, you don't have to do backups. You don't have to check your data. You don't have to kick somebody out when you want to make a change. You don't have to do a year-end close down. I mean, these little things actually quite huge, I think.
I think you're right. And I think like we're into the 4th year of renovating a property. We have 1,000,001 tradesmen here all the time. And one by one, I've been converting them all to Xero. But hearing how it genuinely does impact them and how they run the business and the actual impact on personal life, it is like, that's what I live for. I live for the fact that actually you have impacted someone. And so one of our tradesmen, and this is quite a known story now, but we live in the middle of nowhere in North Yorkshire, and he was driving down the main road, the A64, and it stopped, and it, for whatever reason, put his file of facts with all of his receipts in on the roof of his car, along with some cash which was in his file of facts, and then carried on driving. That file of facts went into a field, and so 10 o'clock at night, pitch black with a head torch on, and his partner was stood in a field picking up pieces of paper because he couldn't remember the last time he'd sent invoices out and didn't know how many he'd lost.
Oh,
and he
wow.
went from that to eventually move into Xero to Now he's VAT registered and a growing business and has employees, actually invoices people and gets paid.
Yeah.
I think like it's the extreme story, but it's those things that make a difference.
Absolutely. And especially for tradespeople, having that pay now button as well. So not only issue the invoice, but get paid whilst you're still on site, right? I mean, why not?
You
But
do
obviously,
the work until you get paid on site.
well, exactly. But obviously today we're talking about app stacks, and obviously Xero sort of, sorry, lost my train of thought. Xero's ability to talk to other apps integrates with software. Can you just talk about what the API is? What does this mean, and what's the scope of that?
I can indeed. So I guess we talk about all the apps that we work with as an ecosystem. We call them an ecosystem because they're no longer a platform to us. It would be a platform if no one was gaining, but we feel like everyone gains from the relationships, whether that's us, the other app providers, the people that are using the apps. And so for us, it's incredibly important to our strategy. That person I just mentioned has an app stack. His app stack includes Dext. And I think that that's where people start to get those real wins. I'll be honest, I don't think he does an awful lot of work. His accountant does the vast majority for him. It is definitely outsourced. And so for us, the API, we have, the API is the interface which apps can then integrate into. We strongly believe in an open interface. And that benefits us not just for being able to link to things like open banking and being able to bring in data from open banking, but it also means that we can integrate with all of the different apps that are on this call, that you can create the relevant app stack, and that you can start to build the solution that you need for your specific business problem. And so if you do look at outsourcing to different verticals or different niches, then you can start to think about what do those people need to actually solve for their business problem and build the relevant solution. So it's a business solution and not just a bookkeeping product.
And that's where we're quite proud at App Advisory Plus as well, because the platform, like you say, Xero is my product of choice, and this is the pain I've got, and it will help you identify those apps that will integrate and make your life better. So the ecosystem, I mean, I could spend hours just looking at all the cool things coming to market. The other thing is, obviously, us as a finance team, to be honest, we do it all. We take all the stress off the business owner, and there's an output at the end in that we usually, prepare forecasts, management accounts, budgets. But, business owners still want to know what's going on in between. So how can Xero help them as well?
See, a business owner can still have access. You can still have read-only access. You don't have to give people the ability to go in and reconcile their own bank, to go and create invoices. And so that's something that's in control of the financial advisor that has access to Xero. So you can then limit some of that access to make sure that actually you're getting the input that you require to be able to then provide the outputs that you want to provide. But then you can also do things like using our new reports. You can build templates and publish those templates so that people can have access to a specific report to them. And so you're not going into a black hole. It's not like you're suddenly hidden from your clients. You want to give your clients access to data. They can see that data. If you want to withhold some of the ability to do things because you think that that's best for them and the process that you're working, then you might choose to do that. And you might say, well, actually, we just need a bank feed and for you to use Dext. And that might be the reality of all you need from certain clients.
Yeah, I've actually gone so far as to create layouts of reports, and then you can name them. So it's very clear, this is for the XX, and only, look at this once a month. You can make it really, really crystal clear for a client that just wants to jump in, have a look at something, and that's all they need. So yeah, the reports I think are great, and obviously have recently been revamped, and I just love all the new filters, especially with like having tracking categories for extra analysis layers. I mean, again, yeah, the reports are really sophisticated.
I think there's just so much you can actually do in product as well. Now there's so much that you can actually report on that's beneficial.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for your time, Kat. I'm going to move swiftly over to Alex from ApprovalMax. it's common knowledge that App Advisory Plus was created because of ApprovalMax. So basically, back when our first client from the outsourced team came on board, they wanted to have a purchase order system. They wanted to have internal approvals based on quite a sophisticated matrix. And as accountants, we were like, okay. So we went and did research. We spoke to all our peers. We spent a lot of time researching and came up with ApprovalMax as the solution. So off the back of that, we thought, well, hold on, if we've had to do that much research as an accountant, how other accountants must be having the same pain points. So App Advisory Plus came up as an idea where we would try and make a platform that would relieve that time of research and direct people to the apps that they should be looking at for each business case. So Alex, in true fashion, for those that don't know, can you go through what ApprovalMax is, please?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you very much, Anki. So one thing to mention here, ApprovalMax is an approval automation tool for your financial documents. Though I should give you perhaps a bit of a context. Each week when I'm doing these overview webinars, just explaining what is ApprovalMax, I usually ask a question to my audience. Like, guys, why you actually came to this webinar? What are the challenges that you're facing when you're approving your documents? And I see that majority of people, they're saying that main thing that we are kind of tired of being a nanny for our customers, or we're tired of being a nanny for our staff, because we need to send all of those multiple notifications. We need to keep track whatever something being approved versus not something has not. So it simply takes a lot of time from people who is doing that rather than they'll be doing some meaningful work. And that is exactly what ApprovalMax does. We're trying to eradicate any need for paper or email-based approval system by providing you a workflow. So if there is something that you can automate, some routine process, let's say when you're approving a bill or maybe purchase order, you probably know where it should go to based on the different criteria, maybe amount threshold, maybe a nominal code, maybe based on the supplier. And once you build this workflow, you can simply forget about it, and your approvers on the go will be able to make their approvals, which will include all the necessary information like line items, attachments, bill to PO matching, and things like that.
Perfect. So again, with our team, we want to put these tools in, but we don't want to sort of add a burden for clients to use it. So how does ApprovalMax make it easy for the clients to do those approvals for us to be able to do our job?
Sure, absolutely. Let me actually give you an example. Just a year ago, when we had all these epidemic, COVID and things like that, one of our partners, he got sick and he'd been quarantining at home. So basically what he went to his backyard in the pool and he was approving documents via his mobile app. So it's as simple as that. You can do things on the go whenever you want to do that. We will be sending you push notifications, email notifications. You can go ahead and log into your web application. So the only challenging thing would be actually to visualize the process. So if you know the way your invoices or purchase orders should go to based on these different criteria, if you can visualize it in your head, it will be super simple to replicate that in the product itself. And once you build the workflow for your approvers, everything will be just a snap. They can just log into their account, click on approve, that's it. The job is done. So it's that simple.
Yeah, that's great. And also, obviously, if people do get off sick and can't just approve from the pool and actually physically unable to, or if they go on holiday, I think the other cool thing is you can reassign or you can put delegates on, can't you? So even if you are absent, then nothing can get missed.
Exactly. Actually, we just updated this feature. So previously you could make a delegate whenever a person is leaving the company or going on vacation. But now you can actually predefine time ahead that if you know that certain people were going on vacation at that point of time, you can say that from maybe 1st of July until 31st of July, this work should be delegated to another person and it will be done all automatic.
I love that.
Just a week ago, we released that actually.
Okay, well, that's exciting because we usually have to put little calendar reminders to turn it on and off for our clients.
Now you can automate this thing as well.
Wow, I'm just loving that. So the other, it's obviously the approvals are great. You can have purchase orders, but one of the other things that we find is quite valuable is that you can add budgets, because usually you'll get to month end, you've got your management accounts pack and you get variances, but it's not until a month, at the end of the month. Yeah. So obviously, talk us through how the budgets can work throughout, day to day for us.
Sure, absolutely. So one thing in ApprovalMax that we want to give to our approvers, that they will have accurate data on the time that they're actually approving the document. Of course, you can always send a message in Slack or maybe send an email to your budget holder or to someone, colleagues, but really it takes up this time and it won't give you enough understanding of what you're actually approving. You need to know what is your expenditure on the day, on the time when you're approving this document. So budget checking feature working very tightly with Xero Budget Manager. So we're bringing those budgets via API. So your approvers in real time will be able to compare budgets against the requests they're approving. It might be bills, purchase orders, you name it. So then it gives you some granular view based on the nominal code, and maybe based on the tracking category, depending on the way you've structured your budgets. And it will show you exactly what is your remaining budget, what is the impact of the bill or the PO that you're approving at the moment, and if you're still aligned with the budget. And you can always keep track which bills are on approval, which bills were already approved, and what is your remaining budget on month-by-month view.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, it just puts the power back in the operational team. They can, they know what they're spending if they've given a budget.
Exactly.
The other thing that we found is, obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning, we sometimes get startups come to us, and let's be honest, the purchase order system is just overkill, especially if there's a team of 2 or whatever. But how do you think ApprovalMax can grow with that business?
Of course. So what we see a lot of our customers, they're approaching us and they just want to start with a very, very simple solution, maybe one simple approval step or maybe 2 approval steps without going very much into details. So they can start with that. It's very visual and very straightforward process. Once you build this first approval workflow, let's say for bills, you start seeing how it's actually reducing time on approvals, how it takes out some of these outright costs, and you see that the actual users being happy of what they're seeing and what they're doing. Later on, once the business grows, you can add some additional process in that. You can add purchase order system and make the bill to purchase order matching. Later on, you can add this batch payment workflow, which is about to release. If you want to add some additional standalone workflows, it's all can be done within just one product, within just a couple of minutes. So the product itself, when I came to company about 3.5 years ago, we were only 15 people in the company. So we simply had no capacity from our end to do these technical demos, to do all of those webinars and things like that. And we wanted to give the power of the technology to our actual customers. And in most cases, they have no idea the way it works. So we wanted to make it as simple as possible to start building those workflows in a very efficient way. Since that time, 4 years has passed. Our team grew up for about 80 people right now, but still the philosophy behind the product remained the same. We wanted to give a very powerful technology. At the same time, it should be super easy to use that even your grandmother could build up the workflow.
Absolutely.
So we can grow with the team itself.
I think you're right. And for us as the accountants, when we initially put ApprovalMax in, we don't have to put aside 4 or 5 hours to configure it. It can be very much out of the box. So I agree. Thank you very much, Alex. I'm conscious of the time, but I think we're doing all right. So we're going to move over to Kaylee now from Telleroo. Telleroo is actually one of our most recent apps to join the FC app stack. And we use it for supplier and payroll payments. And I literally don't know how we coped without it beforehand. So Kaylee, welcome. Thank you very much for joining. Yeah, please give us an overview of how Telleroo works.
Sure. Hello, everyone. So if we look at the process of making payments to suppliers or paying wages, actually for many businesses, if you haven't got something very cool like ApprovalMax in place, that involves sending around spreadsheets with, okay, these are the invoices that we've got. And then it's, okay, well, these are wrong, these are right. Now, the ones that are right, which ones can we pay? And then you get that list, and then it's someone manually sitting down, logging into online banking, potentially with codes and pin centuries and cards, etc., keying in each of those individually, double checking they're right, and then going back and updating all of those spreadsheets, etc. Right? And so what Telleroo allows you to do is actually get rid of all of that and automate that process. So as an example, you can take invoices that you have in Xero, you create batches of payments that then sync through to Telleroo, which creates a batch of payments that are then ready to go. You can implement a review and approval process within our system and schedule them for whatever date that you want those paid. So ultimately, significantly, I guess, reducing margin for error and creating a really efficient payment process.
And actually, it's usually the business owner that is the one keying those amounts into the bank. So you can imagine the amount of wasted time that they should be doing, working in the in the business, building the business, and not be keying in amounts into the bank. So completely agree on that front. So obviously, I'm going to quote per Google, as of a date a month or so ago, obviously banking fraud is huge right now. We've all probably had one of those emails from a colleague saying, please make this urgent payment, but don't talk to me because I'm in a meeting. And we've seen, sadly, we have seen it across the client base. But how does Telleroo help with checking, or not checking, but helping against banking fraud on that front, please?
Yeah, 100%. My background is in banking, and you see it happen way more than you would expect, right? People ring up, we had a fraudulent invoice, we paid it. It's now a month, 6 weeks later, and they're chasing us for money, and we thought we'd paid it. And you try and unpick all of that, right? So we're very, very aware of that and doing multiple things around it. So the first is that when bank details are pushed into us, we do what we call a modulus check and actually validate that that account number exists at that sort code, and that actually that is correct in that sense. And then actually there are risk warnings that you see. So the first time that you pay a new payee from Telleroo, you get a flag that says, hey, this is new. Are you sure you want to pay these people? And again, you can go and check, actually, is this a valid person that we're meant to be paying? This hasn't slipped in accidentally. So you can check that. But also, if the name or the bank details have been updated after you've paid them the first time, and any time after that, you will then get a flag that says updated, and you can check whether that is the name or the details. And again, that just gives you as an advisor, or actually as the business owner, the opportunity to step away for a second and make sure that those details are correct. That, okay, maybe we did have an email saying that these details should be updated, but let's double check the email address. Let's give a call into someone that we trust on a number that we know and just validate that those details are correct, right? And it's just, I guess, putting a few more hurdles in place to try and prevent that and give the opportunities to double check those. But the other really great thing is the kind of review and approval process within Telleroo, because actually you've got a really clear audit trail of who did what. And that's not to play a blame game by any means, but it just means that you can track these things back and see who did what and why, and actually start to unpick those things if there are any issues later down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said at the very beginning, I don't know how we coped. Well, I do know how we coped before with supplier payment runs, and especially when everyone wants them paid on the 15th or 30th of the month, and we're there doing tons of client payment runs. But the efficiencies for us, well, I could talk about it, but that would be pointless. Can you tell us about the efficiencies that it can bring to us as the team?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess as a headline one to throw out there, using Telleroo, it takes about 4 minutes to set up a pay run of up to 100 payments. So it's quick, right? Once you've got that in, it's quick. And really, yeah, there's a few things that sit below it, but I guess as a headline, really, it's freeing up either your kind of accountant and advisor to be doing things that can really help a business to grow, right? You guys aren't just there to give the numbers and give them the cool tech. It's all of the things you do around that, the management reporting, the actually what's next, how do we plan for that? And actually having tools that make these things really efficient just frees up the time to spend doing that. But actually, as you said, business owners don't set up businesses to make payments, right? They set up businesses to do the things they love, to help people, etc. And actually, again, it just frees up their time. So I guess key things to note under that, it's the removal of the manual data entry. We're pulling the data that's already been input elsewhere and just transferring that across so that you're not duplicating that. The ability to collaborate, actually, you can bring whoever you need into Telleroo with different user rights so that they can view, they can approve, they can review, whatever that might be, so that actually everything's in one place. There's no emails, and again, just reducing that kind of margin of error. And then I guess the two other things around efficiency, one is the ability to change details. So actually, once it's in and you're going through that review and approval phase, if you need to get rid of payments and bits like that, if you cancel a payment in Telleroo, we go back to Xero and move that back to a waiting payment. We're keeping everything in sync and matching that up. And then one-click reconciliation, because who really wants to click through and match up items individually, right? So again, just a bit more time saved for you.
I think the other thing to add from us as an accountant's point of view is that a few years ago would be added to client banks, would be added as a, we'd have restricted access, obviously, but that painful paperwork to be even added on And then naturally we had staff leave. So then it's like, oh God, which bank did our staff member have access to? So for us to have no concern about us having any mandates on any, clients' banks, it's just something not to worry about. So it's, for that, I love it as well. It's
absolutely right, because if you look back 10 years or so, clients of kind of almost any size had access to bank managers and people that could support them with that process and make that really easy. What we've seen is all the bank branches shut, a whole bunch of bank managers out of action, and actually the emergence of neobanks and the likes of Monzo and Starling and people like that, where actually that process is 10 times harder if doable at all, and again just makes that way trickier. So this is a really, really safe and efficient way for advisors, accountants, bookkeepers, etc., to say, hey, actually this is a service we can support you with, this is something we can use to free up your time, but actually we're going to do it in a really controlled and efficient way.
Absolutely. No, I think, I mean, as I say, the amount of time we've saved now on that front is brilliant. So thank you very much for joining us today. So I'm going to finally go across to Sonia from Chaser. Hello, Sonia. How are you doing?
Hello, nice to
Hello.
see you. It's been a while.
So Chaser we've been using since 2014 internally for Farnell Clarke's own credit control. I in fact remember the day that Will implemented it and kept popping his head round the door going, we've been paid again, and it was all old debts. So can you give us an overview of Chaser, please, Sonia? Thank you.
Absolutely. Just three points about Chaser. It's an accounts receivable automation platform. Three things that make us kind of stand out is, sorry, I'll do my best. I lost my voice this week. So I apologize. I hope you can hear me.
You're fine.
It was better this morning, but I've been talking all day, so I apologize. So just one of the main things that I want to say about Chasers, with accounts receivable, we do multi-channel chasing. So you can choose to chase also via SMS, not only email. So what makes that quite useful is that you can cut through the noise of the multitude of emails that your customers are receiving and contact them on the go by sending those payment reminders. And the other side to it that makes it kind of special is the payment gateway link. And you can send that also via SMS as a payment reminder to your customers to get them to pay. So if they're sitting on their couch, they might receive a text and say, oh, I forgot to pay this, and just quickly on their phones and make the payment. And over the course of the last 6 months, we've been tracking the data, and we have over 90% success rate at helping our customers get paid. But the bread and so that's quite exciting from a tech perspective, but the bread and butter of Chaser has always been the humanized automation. So having those customized template so that all of the reminders are really personalized to your style. You can attach each invoice and customer statement. All the email invoice reminders come from your usual address, so they match also your signature and logo, so they don't look like these automated invoice reminders that you typically see. And I think the other side that I'd like to say about Chaser is over the course of the last 2 years, we've developed kind of more of an end-to-end credit control rather than just invoice reminders. So people can go in now and make more informed decisions about who they're going to extend credit to, because you've got the credit checking functionality, you've got credit monitoring functionality, so you can track your customers if their credits go up and down. You've got the payment portal to try and help those payments go through. And there's also the debt collection service that was launched 2 years ago. So if an invoice is past due for quite some time and you think you might need that additional support, you can escalate to debt collection. So we're trying to offer kind of that whole credit control journey now to our customers.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we really like to do, and especially on setup for new clients, is ask them what their client base is like. So they might, let's say, they might do B2B, but also B2C, and they might want different tones or different chasing as well. So you can create different schedules based on what your client or what our clients should be seeing. So you can go in really hard, perhaps on the B2C, but be a bit it depends. So I just love the way you can really tailor those schedules.
It's the same for us, and the fact that we service direct and partners, and we would want to collaborate and contact them in different ways as well.
Yeah, it's really a niche thing. So again, just per Google, although I don't think I finished my last fact on Google, which I apologize, but basically it was saying that bank fraud increased by 71% in 2021. That was my fact that I didn't finish. But for cash flow, 3 out of 4 small businesses have cash flow issues. And to be fair, we see a lot of clients come to us and we'll say, right, what's your credit control process now? And they'll look at us quite blankly and go, nothing. What do we need to do? So how does Chasers sort of help clients follow best practice?
It's such a good point. And I think as well with, the looming economic downturn, it's becoming more of a sticking point as well. We've got customers writing us and asking for advice, and we're seeking experts to come in and potentially speak on the topic as well. But what we essentially, recommend is, polite persistence pays is the saying that we have at Chaser. So having that human touch, businesses are going to be struggling to pay their invoices. So we don't want to be rough with them necessarily in how we remind them to make their payments. One thing that's really useful is to send before due emails. So if you just remind customers that, a payment is going to be due quite soon, sometimes it could help them, just get a prompt to put more money into their credit cards, etc. And it's also a really nice touch to send thanks for paying emails. You can automate that with Chaser. Just thank you for the payment. It's just a really nice touch from
We get a lot of thank you emails for our thank you emails.
Yes,
which is quite nice. It's quite nice.
It is quite nice. And if you think about it, it's a normal human thing, right? We're in person and I gave you my payment, your reaction would be thank you, and I would say thank you as well. So why stop at the digital level, right? It makes sense to carry on that conversation just that little bit further for the customer standpoint.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add also that we'd recommend a good process for escalation. So you don't want to escalate too early to upset your customers, but you also don't want to escalate too late where the payment is unrecoverable.
Yeah. No, that just to cover on that one, that's really good. So for instance, we've seen it where obviously we'll be chasing the accounts department and they're either not responding or saying, oh, I've got to wait for approval internally. And what we then nicely have is the salesperson perhaps that we dealt with in the first instance. And we can also copy in our client as well. So the person that made the order or was, so it basically just include everyone that was involved in the very first transaction. And that's great as well. So the other element for us as the outsourced team is that the way that acts like a CRM. So obviously any correspondence is collated in one place. So talk to us about how that data is captured, what reports we can run, notes, and sort of the functionality on that side.
So that's one of the main functionalities that our customers love and comment on, that we're consistently working on improving and adding enhancements, with some nice stuff coming soon. But essentially, we have full visibility on all the outstanding invoices, customer data, and whatever accounting system you use, you can pull that information into Chaser. The sync is very quick, and you get also all the visibility over the chasing activity. So if one of your credit controllers is away, the other one can pick up exactly where they left off. So there's not a duplicate response or reminder sent. You don't spend time and effort searching through spreadsheets or even your email inboxes. Everything is there. You can also tag notes to your colleagues within Chaser and send reminders as well, so that they'll be notified, and it ensures that everybody is on the same page. So if you have various people working on the same account or on the same kind of reminder, you'll be able to have that all in one place. And in terms of the reporting, we have kind of a dashboard that we call Chase Feed, and it tells you how things are looking at the moment with regards to your account and outstanding invoices. So if you have to run a risk report or a customer report, it'll give you just that little bit more insight on how your customers, clients, and their payment behaviors are. So that means that you can use these reports to make kind of an educated decision about how you want to deal with that specific overdue invoice.
Okay. Lovely. I'm sorry to cut you off as well. I'm again conscious of the time,
Yeah.
but I think we could just spend all day chatting about how each app just adds such value to us as a team. There will be a poll, if I don't know if that's already popped up, but there should be a poll coming around in which one you perhaps like to be interested in learning more about. And I'm just going to I don't know if you can see behind the poll because my screen's different, but just to show you how these apps have all integrated together in terms of showing the process of how we use them. So going back to the very beginning, we have the email inbox that goes through to Dext, that goes into Xero, back out to ApprovalMax, and then to Telleroo and Chasers. So it's all beautifully centered around Xero there. And then just to follow up, just to say that's just the start. So as soon as you've nailed that core bit in the middle, you then look at your company for its own needs and what it needs to work operationally as well as for the finance team. So again, you can look at staff expense reports, timesheets, e-commerce platforms. I mean, it's just so exciting. And then we've got some questions. So again, apologies. We've got a couple of minutes before we need to wrap up. So the poll is still going, I think. I don't know if this is a contentious one or not. So I'll let me, sorry, apologies. I'm just going to go see which questions have or haven't been answered. Right, bear with me. Telleroo. Oh, I also forgot to say for Telleroo, foreign currency is coming soon. I'm not allowed to say when because but foreign currency, very excited. But question, does Telleroo integrate with BrightPay?
Yes, we accept the files from BrightPay. I think I popped an answer in there with my email address if anyone wants the actual instructions of how to do it. But yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. We've got, is it available in Canada? Which again, I see you've answered. God, you guys are on it. You're just answering these questions already.
I think we've got a few in open still.
Just the UK, which is good for me. Right, okay. We can, I don't know what happens with the questions, but perhaps we'll compile them and share them later with some answers so that everyone gets what they need. I suppose just thank you very much to the panelists for attending and taking the time out of your day to chat with me. And I'm sure we'll be doing it again very soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lovely.
You guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks,
then.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have
Frank.
a lovely day.
All right.
Hey guys, I'm just just downloading the poll results now.
Thank you.
I hope. I don't really know how to do it. Oh yeah, I've got a CSV.
Can I just check, Carl, that the webinar's ended?
It has now.